I got sucked into the dimension of Tank.
Ectophase! Activate! What is going on, Ranger Nation? You're listening to the Ranger Nation podcast, and we're going to have a Ranger Nation conversation. I'm your host. You can call me Toast, or just Mike, if that's what you like. Rhyming. With me today, we have Jay.
Yay!
We have John.
Howdy.
Bon.
We have Bryce.
What's up?
And we
Nice.
have Seth.
I've got nothing that rhymes with that. That's we're good to go.
Wow. So, for those of you who were living under a rock this week in the Power Ranger fandom, there was some video footage and some stills released of just an upcoming, I don't know if it's going to be special or not, something called Once and Always, the 30-year anniversary reunion.
And in bigger news, we also launched the first episode of Ranger Nation podcast, of Ranger Nation Conversation.
Bang on. Well done.
I'm like, you're the host. You're supposed to be bringing that up.
Well, because of the 30th anniversary special, we figured we'd talk about anniversary specials. Funny that.
They are all so good.
They're all something, that's for sure.
Do we want to go in any order here specifically? Like, do we want to start off with Forever Red, as soon as that's
May
the
as
main
well.
first one?
We
Makes
can
sense,
do.
right?
In some ways, we're starting at the top, and we're kind of gonna go
Progressively
steadily
worse.
downhill, depending on
That's
your
very
input.
true, yes.
So I did my homework this week, everybody, and I watched all of these episodes in the span of a day and a half, and I also kind of wanted to die by the end of it too. However, I took a bunch of notes, and I've got all my details here in front of me, and I feel like there are 3 ways that you can do an anniversary episode in kind of any franchise, really, but like I guess something as big and like spanning as this as it would be. 2 they've done twice, and 1 they are about to do for the first time this April.
Ooh.
So I would say that there is specifically the type which is the more fan service, throw everything at the wall, just go all in and kind of see what sticks. And there's 2 of those, and they have the bookends of what's been happened so far. And then there is the type which is more integrated into the ongoing season, and it's part of the overall story of the show. And it's done as a way to add to the narrative, or maybe even close up the narrative in some ways too. And there are 2 of those. I think 2 of them do the job well, and I think 2 of them do the job less well, shall we say? And we will get to which one is which soon.
No, it's funny that you kept saying that, because I'm like doing the math and I'm thinking, wait, you're getting the wrong amount. But then remember, Grid Connection is not an anniversary team up, which meant that I rewatched that for nothing. I put myself through hell for nothing.
Oh wait, shoot! I forgot. So I said 3, didn't I? I only listed 2. So there's the 3rd type, which is what's coming up, is a specific anniversary for a specific season, where it just kind of focuses on one cast and one thing, and kind of just really ignores everything else. And obviously, that's what's going to be coming up with the Mighty Morphin tribute episode in April. And I guess the jury's still out on there. The hype is there, and the hype is real, and we can discuss that at the end of this too. But
I can't wait to, honestly, because this is like the first time in a long time where I felt like genuinely positive about a Power Rangers thing that's not the comics.
Something to look forward to, absolutely.
Yeah.
Something to look forward to at the end of the podcast, Bryce.
For those listening at home, the anniversary specials, as we mentioned, Grid Connection we don't see it as one because it wasn't really one. So we're talking about Forever Red,
10th,
Once a Ranger,
15th,
Legendary Battle,
20th,
Dimensions in Danger,
20th,
Boo!
with a potential honourable mention of Legacy of Power, because it was the 500th episode and they made a special deal out of it, and they've never done anything similar to that since.
I didn't watch that. Oh, you son of a...
Wait, we're counting that?
Well, no, it's just like I said, it's an honourable mention because they make a deal out of it in the show. Oh, it's the 500th episode. Oh, let's go over the whole show as a history, and then they've not bothered to do anything. They didn't do anything for 750. They didn't do. They've not hit 1,000, but it just seems that it is an anniversary episode, but not in the traditional sense.
But what about the iconic 800th episode, Dino Charge, Sink or Swim?
How did you find that out?
I just remember that being a big deal to the fandom.
Why?
800 episode.
But they didn't do anything to celebrate it. Yeah,
No, it has nothing to do with. They didn't celebrate it at all.
I'm not like a big expert on that season. Did they, in fact, sink or swim?
They did sink.
To a new low.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I will not accept Dino Charge slander in this room.
Here we go. It's Elgar stuff again, isn't it? Jesus.
I think that episode focuses on Ivan, so it's probably one of the better ones.
Oh yeah,
okay, that's
true.
good.
Yeah,
that's fine.
But was he carrying an octopus?
Don't.
Let's not get Bryce started.
No. So,
but let's get started.
Red, who's going first with Forever Red? Right. So let's start with. You know what? Because I feel like this is, as we said earlier, this is generally kind of perceived as one of the better anniversary specials. Let's start with what we didn't like. Let's start with the bad on Forever Red, and then we can end on the good and shine.
Serpentera.
I know some people here aren't a big fan of Forever Red.
Number one problem, continuity. What the hell is that?
Number two problem, Serpentera in the Wild Force Rider.
Yeah.
See, I have Wild Force Rider down on my bad list just because it was a forced shoehorn of a toy commercial that wasn't necessary. And I understand that some people might say that it's like it helps part of the overall story arc with Wild Force. Like obviously, Wild Force Rider being essentially a gift to Cole from over like the last few episodes, like quite a long drawn story process, and then he gets to use it to take down Serpentera, kind of thing like that. But it just felt like it ruined the whole special aesthetic of an anniversary team up.
It did,
in my opinion. Yeah,
and ruined Serpentera.
Well, that too.
How about that?
I disagree.
Of course you do.
With some of it. Maybe not so much. The scale of Serpentera was a bit strange, and I feel like I'd never really noticed that until I watched it yesterday, and I was like, "Ooh, that's a small dragon." But the idea, I think, one of the main strengths for me of Forever Red is the fact that it was kind of like, and also in the world is this, and it did away with the whole Wild Force plot because it's not really part of the narrative they were trying to tell in that particular one episode
until the very last scene.
And I think Cole being the one to do that is good because it's still, it still is an episode of Wild Force. You don't want to completely just forget the kind of current hero too. You want to make them seem like they're not just kind of like pathetic compared to the rest. And
so I'm going to really quickly do something that I hated doing last time. I'm going to do a Bryce. This is a similar point I have here to Dimensions in Danger. Should the ending of that have been different? Because that was a Ninja Steel season episode, and the focus was not on them at all. So why is the focus okay in Forever Red, but not why aren't we going like why didn't Brody do the final strike in Dimensions in Danger? Other than the fact that we don't like Brody,
because it simply wouldn't have been epic enough. Of course,
I'm going to throw a wrench in here and say that I didn't like how either one of those specials did it. It should have been a joint effort in both parts.
That's what I think.
I think Forever Red did it as that essentially thing where everyone felt equal to some degree, maybe up until obviously that last point, but everybody kind of got them.
The last point is what I thought we were talking about.
Yeah, but the last point is the sum of all the parts. It's kind of like everything leads to that moment, whereas in the way, again, without skipping ahead too far, with the issue one of the issues I had with Dimensions in Danger is that it was trying to be a Ninja Steel episode, and it was trying to utilize them to some degree, and it just kind of didn't do anything in the right way. But I'll get to that. I feel like the cold finishing it off was part of a narrative of Jason, the original one, and him, the newest one, kind of had this back and forth of, like, leave it to
You
me,
did well,
rookie, kind of
rookie.
thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to shake your hand. And then at the end, it's like, you did a good job, rookie, kind of thing. And it's, it's a nice progression of there. You might see it as character development if you wanted to. I don't know. It's up to, I guess that's really open
Could
to
we count that as
interpretation.
character
But
development when it's the only time Jason's had a personality?
that's not what we're talking about here, Bryce. We're talking about the episode. So, yeah, I think I don't have many negatives to say with Forever Red. I think the main one for me, and I'll echo what John said, was to do with continuity. So in my notes, I have it that it was written by, and you're gonna have to help me with this name, Amit Baumik.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
I think that's how you
that's right.
pronounce it, yeah.
Apologies if you and he's not listening, but if he is listening, apologies. But I think that this is all through what I remember back in the day, because I was a much bigger part of like the fandom back then. I've kind of not been for years now. But I remember it was kind of based on a fanfic. The plot was kind of a lot of the references to, like, the Zeo Rangers destroying the Machine Empire and Serpentera being buried on the moon was kind of derived solely from that fanfic and not from what we actually saw in Zeo, which is, in some ways, it's obviously bad, and I'm not going to dispute that. However, the fact that it's written by someone, and I think this really shows in Forever Red more than any other of these episodes, it's written by someone who's clearly a fan of the material and clearly understands a lot of, not necessarily all, but a lot of the characters in a way that when we get to maybe Legendary Battle, but especially when we get to Dimensions in Danger, is completely out the window.
Yeah.
So
I agree on
every
that.
stuff, like when you see Andros are doing Androsy things. Like Wes and Eric are very much themselves.
The
it makes
dialogue is
sense.
fitting for the characters.
Yes, 100%. The dialogue, and not just the dialogue, but there's another scene that I'm going to get to in a moment, which for me is the highlight of the episode, and just like the corresponding scene was the highlight of Once a Ranger as well, which is the civilian fight scene.
Yeah.
Everybody and people, I don't know. Again, obviously we had a bit of a whoop-de-doop-de-doop, one of those famous things on Twitter a few months ago regarding civilian fight scenes. I am a big proponent for them. I think they're one of the most important parts of the entire franchise. Like, I mean, obviously that can be debated how important it is.
Simon disliked that.
But oh my god, I think they're so important both to the story and the structure of the show itself, but they're also super important to the fans, because there's no better way to get to know the characters as heroes than to see them with their faces, not covered in not the masks, not the suits, not the powers, but fighting as themselves. And everybody in this episode did it really well. Like Jason was fighting like how you'd expect Jason to fight. Like Tommy gets like his like signature stuff in there. Carter's using his guns. Like
that's something actually you saying that made me think of you saying about the characters there and how they've been used and written by a fan. I feel like if you used to have Carter now appear in a civilian fight in a team up, they wouldn't have him using his sidearm outside of being morphed, because they would think, oh, it's when he's morphed. But if you know the character and you know the show he's come from, the season he's come from, you know that they use them all the time.
Yep.
Yes, I think so. I would out of all 4 of the episodes we're talking about today, I would say Forever Red is 100% fan service done the best. I think one of the episodes is close but has a few more issues that I'd take with it, but I'd say Forever Red does that best. Again, feel free to disagree and jump in, guys. John, I can hear you breathing.
I think it set the precedent for anniversary episodes being the only time continuity ever matters, and in doing that, they ruin continuity. Because there's no continuity leading up to them, so they have to make their own, which in many cases just makes everything worse. And Forever Red just kind of started that trend, and it's continued ever since.
Yeah, I can see that.
Fair. I think obviously in retrospect, that's fair. I think at the time, because it was, and again, it's tricky because you look back and you think, oh, why is Bulk and Skull taking phone calls for Tommy kind of thing, when it's like, hang on, this man's supposed to be in medical school. But at the time, obviously, we didn't know that. They didn't know that. He was never written to be that. So it's different when it's, say, and I'm not going to dispute that they had a harder job in tying 25 years worth of continuity together in one episode compared to 10. It's obviously much simpler and much easier to do. But obviously, I think at the time, some of it was nice to see Bulk and Skull. It was nice to see.
See, that was one of my good points, actually, is that not on all the characters, of course, but in some of them, like Bulk and Skull and even Tommy, they just gave a little glimpse of a backstory to what they're up to now in the last time that we've seen them. Yes, it doesn't make sense that Bulk is back with Skull based on the last time we saw Bulk, little things like that. But there's something there to then fill an extra gap on how did he get back and be with Skull.
I do take issue with the Serpentera thing, just because to me it's like you can't just show something from the past without also showing what it was in the past. And Serpentera was always this super powerful, feared weapon that was so powerful it wasn't even able to sustain itself.
I was going to say it was super powerful until it ran out of battery.
And it survived a full fleet of Thunderzords unscathed. It was unbeatable. But now suddenly Cole on his space skateboard was able to blow it up.
Space bike.
Very distinct difference.
Space bike that he only used twice.
I can give it a pass because, again, if you want to talk about in continuity or maybe in just the context of the episode, it's not full. Again, I mean, we never really saw it too much at full power because, like you said, it was always constantly getting drained, like a modern Apple product. But it was, if you're listening, Ghost of Steve Jobs, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's kind of, if the majority of the episode is good, it's easier to give a pass to some of the things that aren't as good. And that's something we're definitely going to get into the further we go into this conversation of the other episodes, because there's less good and it makes the bad stand out a lot more.
Yeah.
I'm just a lot pickier when it comes to fan service. And yeah, I really do have to temper that because we're getting into much worse things later. So I'll stop talking now about that.
So, despite it not being the best, Forever Red has always just been my favorite of all the anniversary team-ups, specifically because it's how you do, like, the real fan service heavy stuff, like, do it right. That's something I feel like that's something the modern seasons can't really, they have a hard time replicating. Like, with Forever Red, yeah, it's just nothing but, like, a 20-something minute long just fan service fest one after another. But it gets you hype. Like, you see all these past Rangers coming back, they all feel like they have almost the same level of importance. They all get to do something. They all have both a civilian fight scene and then a morphed fight scene later on. Everything was just nonstop and it worked. And even though it's not really a good episode per se, it still manages to be my favorite anniversary episode.
I honestly think it's a good episode. I do it when I watched it again. I forgot how much I enjoyed it. I think when I kind of think back on it, I'll think maybe, it was just silly and thrown together and all this kind of stuff. But when I watched it, I was like, no, I feel like in terms of what it was supposed to be, which was a spectacle, it holds up possibly better than any of the others in terms of being like a spectacle type thing, which again,
It absolutely
really
does.
only one tried to do that since, and it does not hold up. And it's only been about 4 years. Sure. But yeah, it's like, again, like you said, we all have a civilian fight scene, we all have a morph fight scene. They all do the morph and they all do the roll call, and that's great. That is, I think there's clips of that on YouTube which have like millions of views, just the morph and roll call, and that's kind of one of those things inherited from Sentai that, as like fans of the show, it's kind of like it's the most stupid, nonsensical thing in real life, but in the show, it's like, this is the best thing.
It's just something that, like, every team up and every anniversary, any special that brings back past Rangers, I feel like it needs. The fact that like the newer ones just kind of don't do that, that's already a strike against them. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We're still on Forever Red.
I think as well, just to, and this will be my last point on it too. I'll let other people talk. As like you said, it's non-stop, and it is, and it's obviously it's cramming a lot into 22 minutes, and it is, rushed in a lot of ways. However, unlike a particular later one, again, it gives a lot of the stuff room to breathe. Like the scene where they're on the megaship and they're going to the moon, and they kind of got the battle room kind of thing where they're doing the meeting around the table and talking, like, and Jason's like, if Serpentera can get at full power, and he's like, it's it's a much more subdued scene than we're used to in these kind of episodes, where it's more. It again allows the characters to show who they are. It's got a little bit of exposition, but it's not like every single line of the episode is exposition. It's people are allowed to talk like themselves and have these little bits of banter, and
Yeah.
there's no better bit of banter in the episode than the final scene.
My Q-Rex could use Dragon's Sword for lunch.
Where they had
He does this little pose.
they had to cut out the line about Andrew saying he killed Zordon.
Oh my
Oh,
god!
yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing until I was when I
Yes.
watched it, and then I was
Yeah.
reading up on stuff.
I don't care how out of character that was, they should have kept it.
I saw the clip and I was like, "Oh my god!"
I just love how when you watch back now and you see Danny Slavin's, obviously Leo, just standing there, kind of just not actually engaging with anyone, just kind of like trying to join in because you know he's not actually there.
It's so sad because his line almost feels like people are talking over him, and it's like, but how can that be? Because he wasn't even there. He could have edited that so it wasn't that way, and it's still. Oh, it's funny. His
Even as a
scenes-
kid, I never realized that he was missing and added in extra. But I always remember the scene or the shot, sorry, where they're underneath, where they've got all their fists in the circle.
Yeah, he's missing.
I remember when you counted all the. They saw him there. There was one missing, and I was like, "Why is one of them not there?" But then when they cut to the wide shot where they'd added him in as green screen, he was there, and it always threw me as a kid. I don't know why that was a detail that stood out to me.
And yet somehow he was more present than Auric.
Mm.
Don't you mean Orico?
Orico, yeah, whatever.
Two different characters.
No one
and they
remembers
both
him.
suck. Yeah, I hesitate to say this, but I almost feel like they shouldn't have even bothered bringing Orico there if they were only gonna do that with him. As it
No, I think it's good that they did.
Yeah,
It's good.
was
yeah.
that even
It
was that
represents
even his
every
actor
single
like
one,
still
yeah.
voicing him in Forever Red?
No,
I'm not sure actually.
pretty sure it wasn't.
Yeah, it does it need to be though? Because people and with no disrespect to the actor, he's not exactly like a fan favorite. Like I don't think people would necessarily remember his voice. And B, like, you just need to add a bit of a water effect over your voice and it works.
It's
So-
not Bane.
You think the water
I
is your
wish you were
ally,
Bane,
Orico?
though.
You merely adopted the water.
I feel like Orico was Orico's inclusion in this was done worse than them like putting Danny Slavin in post. Like he was the one that stuck out.
I don't know, because if they didn't do that, then it would have just been Leo morph too, and that would have been, I think that would have been even worse because Leo's such a more memorable character and stuff.
There's footage coming out soon. The Twitter account Morphin Museum has managed to get the unedited raw tapes from filming, and he's shown a little preview of that scene before they're all morph, and you see Orico morphed, but also Leo morphed at the end while everyone in the middle's not. So it's interesting. Hopefully, he should be releasing them soon. Actually, it will be really interesting to see all that footage once it's out.
Oh yeah, that's I saw some footage of the behind the scenes stuff, which is where I saw that like, well, he's so good. I'm the one who killed Zordon, and it's like, holy what? No. let's talk. Let's come on, TJ. Let's talk about the pizza thing some more.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, they
so
should have
it's-
kept that. Oh man.
Like when we're talking about like good bits of fan service, it's like that's whoa, no, that's
Oh, that was
That's
that
not
was
how
that
service
was
works.
amazing. So, just going back to how much Orico didn't really make an impact with anybody, you think that they could have gotten away with just putting a completely different actor in like the equation, whatever that thing is that they put on their heads?
maybe.
Or a headpiece.
Yeah,
Probably,
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, and just having him morph with the rest of them. Because again, the fact that he was just there, the fact that he didn't morph with them, the fact that that episode was the first time I even knew his name, I feel like he just stuck out way too much.
Yeah, I think either not having him there at all or recasting him so at least he was present with them before the morph would have been better than just shoving him in there unannounced. Suddenly, here's Orico.
Yeah, Red Alien Ranger. Yeah,
At least they considered him more important than Rocky.
yeah. That was my next question actually.
Yeah.
What's like the official thing or reason we got for Steve not being there?
Didn't pick his phone up.
Okay.
Wasn't there supposed to be a scene with him as like Tommy's butler or something?
Was that confirmed?
Oh, so it rings a bell actually.
Yeah.
I heard
But yeah.
I heard about that. I didn't know if that was real or not.
Speaking of butlers, Operation Overdrive has a wonderful butler named
Oh,
Spencer.
Oh, are we
Operation
are we moving
Overdrive
on?
also has once a ranger.
Segway.
No, he's a very good character, actually. Yeah.
Spencer's great.
Once a Ranger has apparently now coined a phrase that's still used, obviously today, with once a Ranger, always a Ranger being thrown around a lot, which I don't mind. It's not a bad phrase.
It works.
I was going to ask, what was the origin of that? Was it that episode, or was it? I feel like it might have
I
been
think
in Mighty Morphin originally.
I think it was said earlier, but I don't know a specific episode or character.
Could have sworn it was said like in relation to like Tommy first losing his Green Ranger powers or something.
Yes,
I think
yeah,
so.
That's what
Yeah.
in my head. That's what I'm thinking. I might need to research this, but I don't want to type because you'll hear it. But yeah, I think it might have been. But either way,
It's definitely been brought to attention more so with the team up. But I honestly really like Once a Ranger. Thrax is a bit hit or miss, but as far as the returning cast,
so on my notes. So overall, I again just to kind of cut out the middleman, I really enjoy Once a Ranger, and in some ways, it's a better episode or better 2 episodes, I guess, than Forever Red, and in other ways, it's not. But my first note
you've just hit the point there right there. To be fair, the fact it's 2 parts, the fact it's 2 episodes,
They gave it
Yes.
is
time.
immediately better. Yeah.
my first note says Thrax is a bit shit, really, isn't he? So
Let's get Thrax out of the way because he's hands down the worst part of that because he just makes no sense whatsoever. But otherwise, I think it's a fine episode.
I hesitate to say that Thrax isn't even worth getting into because of how bad he sucks, but there's just so much to unpack about his character and just the complete continuity nightmare that he created.
Just his shiny metal codpiece as well.
I was immediately taken aback this time by his accent. It was hilarious. It's like a weird mix of New Zealand and Irish too, and it's like, you know, that weird like fake TV Irish where it's like, "What are you doing, Ranger? I'm gonna take you down with me mother," and it's like more like a pirate, I guess. But even it's a pirate Irish Kiwi. It's the weirdest voice, and it like
Isn't that just natural for the son of Rita and Lord Zed?
Yeah. So I will preface any of the discussion about him. So I know a lot of the issue is that, you know, how could he logically fit in? And I've always thought that, you know, he wasn't born during the period of, you know, holy matrimony, because he'd be 10 years old at that point, 11, 12 years old. And isn't there a scene where he's like a flashback of him being
imprisoned by the Sentinel Knight, who was like, he himself was in prison, what was that, millions of years ago or something?
I don't know the exact time frame. It's been a while since I watched Once a Ranger. I watched that yesterday. Operation Overdrive. But basically in my head, Rita and Zed had a bit of a thing way back many years ago.
I was gonna say, didn't they know each other before?
Yeah,
yes, they did, because she was when he was like
her boss.
Yeah, Zed was the one who sent her to Earth to take it over.
Yeah. So things got a bit frisky once on a blue moon.
Yep, she jumped his, you know, bones and exposed muscle, and
she likes the massive anaconda he had. Oh wait, that turned into his staff as well, didn't it?
Just, oh my god, how kid friendly are we supposed to be? he says recording the Power Rangers podcast.
Well, that explanation, there's technically nothing that contradicts it.
Yes.
I don't know how much I like it. Mostly because, one, it just feels like we're once again putting more thought into this than the people who actually wrote the show did. But I don't know. It seems weird to think
Jackie
that
Marchand wrote the episode. Bryce to Jackie Marchand. I've got the notes down.
Good.
Of course.
I didn't mention that Koichi Sakamoto is the director of Forever Red, which is probably why I like it so much. Koichi is the best.
They should bring him back. 100%.
And he's too busy doing like good stuff now. Once a Ranger is directed by Britta Johnstone, who I don't know off the top of my head if she did anything else like as important as like the 15th anniversary episode. But yeah, Jackie Marchand, who I believe worked for a long time on the franchise. Yeah. So again, she's kind of someone who would have a lot of knowledge.
He was involved all the way back in Turbo.
We like Jackie.
We like Jackie. Just she dropped the ball in this particular instance, and we're not gonna pick the slack up for her and then act like it's canon. Or that's the explanation.
Oh no! I'm not.
I have some wonderful trivia.
But
Steph's trivia. It's We
Yeah,
need. I
let's
think we
hear
need like a
Seth's
little
trivia.
jingle for Seth's trivia time.
Director of Once a Ranger directed the finale to Dino Supercharge.
Ooh,
Oh.
that explains a lot.
Ranger Genocide.
That is very interesting because I didn't think anyone from those Disney seasons, outside of a few voice actors and a couple of maybe the Charlie Haskell director, was still working on the show since it's overhaul.
I think again, I don't know if this is all through research, but I think I saw some writers' names pop up that have kind of been back and forth. I could be wrong. I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I will.
That's very interesting. Thank you for your Seth's trivia.
Yay!
But shoot, where was I? Seth made me lose my train of thought.
Choo choo.
That's okay.
We need to move on from Thrax anyway, because that's a lot of threads we can't pull.
One of my bad points here for Once a Ranger isn't really a massive point. It's just something that niggled me even as a child. Again, or I say child, I was more of a teenager in his head. Was that Tori's ninja outfit was wrong,
Was it?
and that bugged me. Yeah, she was back in her normal what they wore in in Ninja Storm, whereas when we'd since seen them in Dino Thunder team up, they had these new outfits that they were obviously where they were the sensei of the school.
Were those completely new outfits, or were they just things on their shoulders? Because I don't remember it being like.
They were completely new outfits, and in my mind, I'm like, did they just then was like, oh, we was evil in them, let's burn them and go back to the old ones, or I don't know. But it just bugged me that she was back in her old ninja outfit. That's just one of the bad points that niggles me with Once a Ranger, because it's such a small oversight that they would have. It's not even that old of a season at that point. Do you know what I mean? There's a bit like the Dino Thunder team up.
I have a weird relationship with Once a Ranger these days, but that's also my relationship with Overdrive in general, because
Hashtag it's complicated.
it's complicated. I used to really, really hate Overdrive. I used to really hate Once a Ranger.
Well, of course, you're a Power Rangers fan on the internet.
Yeah. Now that worse things have come, and I've realized I've taken a step back and looked at it again now that I'm older, because I was in middle school when Overdrive came out. It's not that. I still think it's bad. I still think it's the second worst Disney season. It's not.
Are we talking about Once a Ranger or Overdrive as a whole?
It's not that bad, and just like with Once a Ranger, it's bad, but I think that it is technically the best anniversary episode. Just from a narrative standpoint, I feel like it does the best at actually telling a story and feeling like an actual episode of the show, and not just here's some fan service. And that's really saying something, because one of the other anniversary team ups is literally the season's finale. A lot of what Once a Ranger does bad, I think there is a lot of good in there too. It does a lot of the same things that I liked about Forever Red, where all these past Rangers come back and we actually get some they feel like themselves. We get some insight into their lives after the season, which I think it does even better than Forever Red.
I agree. I agree with that part. Yeah.
For the most part in Forever
Yeah.
Red, the only person whose life we really see is Tommy's. But with Once a Ranger, it's we know what Bridge is doing now. We find out what
We know
Adam.
what Bridge is going to do.
Okay. Did we find out exactly what Adam was doing, or was that whole thing about him?
He has a throwaway line of how he's got a dojo in Angel Grove.
You mean he's not building SPA?
There is a scene. There is a scene in Once a Ranger when it's Bridges' monologue where he's kind of going through all the things that he's done but hasn't done but will do, kind of thing. And he mentions that when the head of SPD, or Commander Kruger, who's a dog, is now the head of SPD, it cuts to Adam's face, who kind of looks at him with this mix of bemusement and confusion, and oh my god, I want to be a part of this organization more than anything I've ever heard of in my entire life. And I clearly think that that's where the writers have took the idea from. Yes.
I could have sworn I also heard Johnny Young Bosch had his own little thing that he'd like to think was canon for what Adam's been doing this whole time. I totally forgot what it was though. I think the only person who really got the short end of the stick, and I'm not complaining about him because I really don't like this character anyway, was Xander. We don't really get much about what he.
Not a fan of Plan Xander, eh?
No, I am not. But that's a discussion for another day.
Again, full disclosure, y'all. That's the Texan in me coming out. I'm sorry. I've still to this day never watched Mystic Force.
Good.
And so I don't, but I've seen the first episode and I think the last episode too. And Xander was the only character I could really remember because he was either so bad at the American accent they let him keep his Kiwi accent, or they just decided for this character we're gonna like do this for whatever reason. And because of that, he was most memorable, and the whole Plan Xander thing and all that kind of stuff stuck in my head. So the fact that he again got to do that in Once a Ranger just felt like, you know, really fitting and really, you know, for someone who only knows the character on a very surface level. I thought, you know, I was like, ah, cool. I'm nostalgic for a season that I've never watched. You know, so I think it does the trick.
See, I didn't mind Xander personally. I mean, Mystic Force isn't anywhere near close to being a good or favourite season of mine. But as a kid or again teenager, I liked Xander as a character. I thought he just brought a bit of a not comic relief, but he brought a lighter tone to a few things, and it was just nice to see Australian again, and nice to see. I don't know, just the way they wrote his character. I thought it wasn't. Now I look at it, it can be annoying, but again, when I watched it, when I was more closer to the demographic they were aiming for, I found it actually he was quite cool.
He's definitely the most memorable of the Mystic Force cast, but that's not saying a lot. Again, discussion for another day. But overall, I think Once a Ranger, out of all the anniversary seasons, did the best by their returning cast members.
Yeah, again, because it was two, like we said before, it was 2 episodes. They got time to, again, a much, like I said with Forever Ed, had some time to breathe between scenes. This obviously had much more time to breathe because we got to see a lot more of the cast, and the cool thing was we got to see them interact a lot more with each other and with the Overdrive team as well. So you got to see a bit of like there was like a bit of back and forth between Bridge and I can't remember his name. No, Blue Ranger. Dax. Sorry. There's me saying that I actually enjoy Overdrive and I can't remember the character's name, so that's not a good sign. But yeah, because they were quite similar characters. He was like a bit of an airhead kind of thing too, and it was nice to kind of see them play off each other. Only in like a very small way, but it was again, I don't know what I was going to say.
That's one of the things that, again, is nice that we got to see more of the cast, but it was a nice cast that they brought back. Like, as good as Forever Red was, where it was all Red Rangers, it was nice to have a diverse color spectrum of returning Rangers this time around.
Yeah. It worked almost too well because honestly, by the time it was over, it had me wishing that they really did just replace the Overdrive cast for the rest of the season. Because not only did they overshadow them, which was actually one of my negatives about Once a Ranger, it didn't feel like it was a good balance between the old and the current, but they were just overall better than the Overdrive team, just as Rangers and as characters. I think the only Overdrive Ranger I ever really had any kind of like inkling of a connection to was Mac and maybe Rose. Everyone else is just
Rose is the correct answer. You are right.
Except for, again, in Once a Ranger, where she tries to sneak up on the bad guys with her invisibility power, but announces where she is before she attacks.
I don't remember. So I was just about to say that one of my positives for it was I actually feel like it did a good job of balancing both teams because it could have just been the Overdrive team just get completely like, you know, pushed to the side.
They did.
Which if it was, see, I disagree because obviously with what you could say with Wild Force we did because that wasn't the point of the episode because it was just a standalone spectacle. This was the other type, which is more of a we're going to try and weave this in to the narrative of the show and kind of do things that kind of grow everybody, and it did. It gave the Overdrive team some growth because they lost the powers, the Overdrive powers themselves, but they still, when the fight at Stonehenge, which is obviously the intro to the Legend team, they still tried to fight them. They didn't have the Overdrive powers, but they had their own like individual civilian powers, and they tried to fight. So they still showed that they're still trying to be heroes and they still believe in what they're doing. And you know, the kind of the typical like even without our powers, we're still the Power Rangers, kind of thing.
And then that lasted until after their first failure.
No, because it was basically when the Legend team came back, they explicitly said, "Oh, it's only going to be us until you guys get your powers back. And because obviously at that point they'd essentially disbanded, they all go back to their original lives, but you can tell that they're all not particularly happy and want to be going back and doing good, which is then exemplified by Mac, who then is kind of the one who's the glue that holds them all together, that then reunites them, and then they do that, weird storyline with the warrior goddess statue. What the hell was that about? I don't, we kind of ignore that. That's a weird scene. Like, I am the warrior goddess. Here is my sword, kind of thing. I was like, oh well, we've learned a lesson today. But it's and it's the idea of them still wanting to join the fight and actively choosing to and doing that. And it was, and again, that was what restored Sentinel Knight, I believe.
Yep,
and so it still advances the plot in some way too. So yeah, I think it's I personally think it handles both teams well. I'm not saying that maybe the Legend team don't overshadow them to some degree, and I don't know if that's maybe some kind of like inner. And again, I must stress that I didn't watch Overdrive at the time, so I don't know if I would feel differently about it as a whole had I been. But watching it now, okay, I only watched it for the first time like a couple of years ago, maybe. I think less. I think it was literally 1 year ago that I watched it, and I don't know. I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed what it tried to do, maybe more than what it actually did do. But it had like this scope, and it's like even just in this episode of Stonehenge, like going to it like a real location and having that whole like adventurous type thing. It tried to do that, and I think I respect something trying to do it and not doing as great of a job than just being too afraid to try it at all. Looking at you, Q Ranger adaptation.
Yep. And see, that is exactly why I've eased up on Overdrive in the most recent years. Because while I think the execution was not good, it wasn't awful, and I could feel that they were actually trying. Like there, and a lot of it really worked. Like
Creative effort was there.
Globetrotting thing was really cool. They weren't the best, but I really liked the idea of having multiple villain factions the way that they did it. Mac is still one of the best Red Rangers in the whole series, like even to this day. There's a lot about Overdrive that didn't work, but was like so close to working that I'm willing to give it a pass for being ambitious, especially because it almost feels like more recent series are trying but still scared to be ambitious, if that makes sense.
But I thought Simon was never called unambitious.
We're not doing this.
You're the one who said ambitious.
We are not trying to get the fandom's wrath before we even get like to 10 episodes. We're not doing that yet.
Seth, what are your thoughts on Once a Ranger?
It has some great character interaction.
Just it.
I'm going to be probably not the most positive about any of the episodes we talk about today.
That's fine, because Once a Ranger is the last one I have anything positive to say about. So
because I don't really like any of the anniversary episodes.
I can see that.
Well, that's killed the conversation, good and flat.
Well, John, what's your thoughts on Once a Ranger?
It has a lot of the same continuity issues that the other ones do, like why is Alpha in a box and not on Miranoi? And I don't know if it was a product of the notorious...
Is that the same Alpha?
Yes,
it's Alpha 6 that's on Miranoi. That was Alpha 5.
No, it was Alpha 6.
No, it's Alpha 6.
No,
that confused me.
Wait, so
yeah, so when you
Once a Ranger's Alpha was
rebuilt
Alpha 6?
him.
Yes.
Yeah. So they rebuilt him in Angel Grove, and he's talking. It's not. It's obviously not the original voice. I think I checked, and it's Campbell Cooley.
Why is Alpha
and it's
male?
It's not a bad interpretation of a voice, I'd say either. It's pretty good. But it's clearly meant to be the Alpha 5 voice. And I think it makes some references to like Zordon and things, which is clearly this is intended to be Alpha 5. But yeah, there's a line where we say this is Alpha 6. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out why Adam knew he was there this whole time and just kind of like left him there.
When you own a dojo, you know everything about that town that you live in.
That's what really bothered me. It's like this man's just rotting in a crate in a warehouse, and
Adam knew.
yeah, Adam knew and was just like, "We'll get him out when we need him."
He's too busy. He's teaching kids karate. He's starting an intergalactic police force. You know, the man's got a lot on his plate.
It's like wasn't there like a Alpha 4 or something like in the bottom of the command center when Goldar and Rito were like sneaking through
Yep.
there and see? Yep, was that Alpha 4 or like Alpha 1?
Pretty sure that was Alpha 4.
Alpha wasn't Alpha 1 in the comics.
Yeah.
I think.
That's why I was wondering whether or not the comics retcon that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just seems like once alphas become obsolete, everyone who's supposed to care about them just doesn't.
Thank God Prince Dex exists.
This is where Seth is once again going to shout the immortal transformation phase of
Ectophase, activate!
every episode. Oh, some might say Master Rider is legendary.
Legendary, you say?
So I guess obviously before we move on to the next incredible anniversary episode, we should probably discuss our final thoughts on Once a Ranger.
What?
Not as bad as I remember
Yeah.
it being, but still bad. I'd still, again, call it the best of the anniversary team-ups.
I would be a little bit more positive than that.
Yeah,
I will say it's probably my joint favorite with Forever Red. It's a very different type of episode, but it does, I'd say, just as good a job in a lot of ways, and a better job in some of the ways that Forever Red didn't do certain things. The civilian fight again was really, really good. You got to see the characters doing like, you know, their own individual, like Kira doing her like civilian powers, and Tori doing like the ninja. Everything was like really
And Bridges like
really
random
in keeping with the
backflips on
characters.
crates.
It's SPD. They're fully trained. You know, what is this?
They know how to use their crates.
Okay, maybe Bridge didn't do as much as he could have done, but he did. Bridge eat toast at any point in the episode?
Buttery.
Wonderful.
Yeah, Spencer brought him some toast and asked him if it's buttery, and Spencer said it's the butteriest.
See, right, it's the best episode. And again, the morph and roll call is wonderful. Adam even gets a Disney-fied morph. You know,
Yeah.
that was great.
That was a rights reason, wasn't it?
I thought it was just the music
I-
they couldn't use, because they definitely used the old footage literally 2 seasons ago.
I just think to fit
Then
in
why
with the
did they
others.
have to? Why did
Yeah.
they reshoot?
Yeah,
the
I
entire
think because
morph?
obviously everyone else on the team, because he is the only like really like old like cast member at that point. Everything it was all like the previous consecutive seasons, and then Adam. And I think because Disney was the era of these like crazy, over the top, ridiculous like CGI morph sequences, that they just thought, oh, to make him fit in, we'll do this.
I don't know how unpopular his opinion is, but I actually love his new morph sequence.
I really like it too.
If you're gonna do, I think if you're gonna do them in Once and Always, I think they need to be much more like the original, like 1993 ones. But for that particular episode, it really fit because it kept him in line with the rest of the team.
I do still think he needed to just throw in a Mastodon and like anywhere in there, either at the beginning or like the very end or something.
Oh, you mean saying that? I thought you meant actually just like picking up a
Oh God, no!
gigantic colossal beast from the Ice Age and throwing it at people. I was like, what? What?
No, he needed to like actually say it. I would have liked that.
Okay, but yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's I think the replacement MMPR music obviously does not do the job as intended.
Not at all.
But it's I don't know. It doesn't take away from a lot of the good that the episode does for me. So again, I feel like everything is good. Some things are great. One thing is pretty rough, and yeah, that's about it really for Once a Ranger for me.
What I was going to say before the alpha tangent was that I don't know if it was because of the Disney budgets limiting them or if it was always planned. They really went for quality over quantity with the returning actors. They actually took the time to write a story for the episode where they were there for a reason. It's not just people showing up because some random threat showed up. Made it all make sense. They gave them all a purpose. We got to see them as them, not just the actor there not even playing the same character, Gemma, Dr. K.
Jason.
Pretty much everyone.
Yeah, no, I would say as far as the anniversary team ups go, it's quite a legendary one.
Well, my segue.
Oh,
But not quite as legendary. It's legendary battle. No, but Legendary Battle was a bit shit, let's be honest.
Oh my
It was the
goodness.
episode that started my Sentai fan era. It was that bad.
Wait, it took that long?
Yeah, so, full disclosure, I didn't even know Sentai existed until that Dino Thunder episode came out. And then, even after that, I only had, like, the vaguest of interest in it. I knew it was there, I didn't really feel like watching it. But then, Legendary Battle came in, and it was so horrible, I was like, okay, I gotta see how Japan did this. And the rest is history. I started with Gokaiger.
Let's go, Kaiser.
Yep, that was my very first Sentai. I know it's probably weird starting a show with its 35th anniversary season, but
I don't think it's weird when literally everybody did that.
it it worked, and I fell in love with that show, and just I've just been big in the Sentai ever since. So I guess I have Super Mega Force to thank for that. I guess.
It's funny because I saw, and I've not actually watched all of Super Mega Force either, but I've seen enough episodes of it, including the particular one that was a tribute to a particular season that a particular member of his podcast told me to watch, and I will hate him forever for it. Seth,
I've apologized.
RPM tribute episode. What the hell? Anyway, I'd seen. By this point, I was like, I'd long since left watching Power Rangers week by week or month by month or ever. And I was pretty firm into watching Sentai, so I'd already seen Gokaiger before I watched a lot of, and I'd already seen Goseiger before I ever saw much of Megaforce 2. And I probably have more positive things to say based on these notes than a lot of you for Legendary Battle. I'm certainly not going to say that it was a good episode. I'm definitely not going to say it was a good anniversary episode, but it's not the worst thing that I've ever seen.
I definitely have some good points for it. One of my bad points kind of goes off of what was mentioned just now. Is I've actually literally written the super meganess of it all, where there's just so much. Where you've got the direction, the acting, the lazy post production is all rampant in this as much as it is throughout the rest of the season, which lets it down.
I thought it was a good job that all of those, like a really random selection of past Rangers, just happened to be in New Zealand to help out during that global disaster that was going on. That was really fortunate. I especially enjoyed Leo's scene where like he's just there and it's like
Nice
at least
name.
he fits in. He fits in a lot more than he does in Forever Red. But like he's like Bigsley, where's Bigsley? And his kid's aggro about where Bigsley is. And it's like, where's Bigsley? And then like like Leo says the dog and he's like, what are your names? And it's like, you just heard him say Bigsley like a million times. You know what his name is. And the kid's like, I'm Danny. And then Danny Slavin just looks at the camera like, nice name.
Nice name.
It's the helmet flash different. It's the funniest thing I've seen in a long time.
What were
it was
Leo,
hilarious.
Corona, Damon even doing there?
If it just happened to be in New Zealand that one day.
Saving people.
Doing rangerly things, Bryce.
I remember at the time when the episode hadn't come out and we'd seen a few behind the scenes snippets in terms of like people posting stuff to Instagram or looking in the background and things like that. And someone saw that they had Astronomer's wig in the background. They was like, "Oh my god, they're gonna have her come as Astronomer. It'll be amazing." And it ended up literally being a tiny, really badly edited shot that was only in the extended version for like a few seconds. No,
I was about to say I didn't. I have some vague memory of that, but then I thought I was going mental because I was watching this yesterday and I got to that scene and like that didn't happen, and I thought, why would I imagine that? Because
you missed out on that, and as well as there was a morphed fight of Super Mega Force team where they take on the like morphing
Where they just completely butchered Gokaiger's final fight? Yep.
It was only in the extended version, which aired at like midnight on Nickelodeon, a week after the regular episode.
Especially for the kids.
Legendary Battleizer mode. And none of them were Battleizer.
I thought it was really badly done.
In my head, what I'm picturing, I need to go and watch this again. I'm sorry, I failed everybody. it was like terrible because it was like she does like the little line, which is fine, but it was like in my head, like I'm picturing it almost like it was cropped in Microsoft Paint, like it was these really bad like feathered edges around it, which you could
It
clearly
was.
see. It was just full
Yeah.
on. It was. I mean, not that I don't expect like amazing Hollywood level special effects in Power Rangers, but it was like noticeably bad, especially in. I feel like it's in some. I don't know. I was gonna say in some points in like this period of time, they done such a good job of matching the Sentai footage to the American footage, where it was as seamless as it had ever been at this point, maybe.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So there was kind of like that level, and then also now this point where it was just the worst Photoshop job I've ever seen in my life. And
It was really bad.
I've done some pretty bad Photoshop things.
I
But yeah,
didn't
that
hate it,
that
but it was really bad.
There we go, John's.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, for those listening, John has now just showed of us the image, and yeah, that is. It doesn't. None of it. It's clearly. It's clearly they literally could have just ran over and said, "Okay, Melody, now we're going to put the wig on. We're going to film again." So then all the light would match and everything like that. But no, they've. It doesn't even sit on a neck properly.
It's clearly Melody then. They took that photo with her on set right there, but then just cut it off of the picture and pasted it on top of her morphed. It's not even an old picture of Astronema. So they had her in costume on set.
In full
Yeah.
costume.
We saw her in full costume.
You saw the full Astronema costume?
Yes.
Why did they waste that?
I've never seen that.
There was a
I
photo
haven't
somebody
either.
posted on Instagram or something with Melody in full costume sitting on the floor, I think.
Interesting.
Now I need to find that.
Well, shiver me timbers. A line that none of the Super Mega Force cast ever got to say.
Well, that's because they were
Because
only
they
vaguely
weren't
pirates.
The one thing I actually quite liked about this, not just this team up, but this scene specifically with all the returning Rangers, is they actually made use of a unique music for it that they only used for this episode and this scene. That music, it's not great music by any stretch of the imagination, but when the returning Rangers are all walking slowly towards the Super Mega Force team, that music that's playing, I can hear it now in my head perfectly because it was so different to the rest of the season's music. So it's just nice that they it seems like the only effort in post-production that they bothered to put in was for that. It's just, I'm not going to replicate it now because that's just going to be very awkward. But it was different music to what else has been shown in the season, and so that was, to me, it was a nice touch, I felt.
So speaking of touch, there's a bit in the episode where a kid is in a car and the car is about to fall off a ledge. Oh my god, the drama, the tension, the stakes. And then all of a sudden,
I'm scared.
I'm scared. And all of a sudden, a man just descends from the sky. Like he just literally out of nowhere. I don't know what Tommy had been stood on, but he just jumps down from like nowhere. Like it's great. And then he's a kid like, I'm scared. And then so to help this scared child, Tommy then whips out a sword with the head of a tiger and pointed at the child. And it's like, if I was that kid, I'd be like, nah, I'm going to stay in the car, mate. I'm done. And I just accept death in all its painful blazing glory.
Did he hand the handle to him and not the...
No, he hands him the sharp part.
The handle is the head of a tiger that can talk. I'd shit myself.
I mean, Saba didn't talk, so he should have.
Grab on, kid. Yes, he should have had that with Saba. That would have been...
The boy just screams, goes further back into the car and just makes it tip over.
Yeah. Yeah, the episode could have been darker than it was. I'm gonna be. I actually liked, and it's something that's missing in a lot, and I don't have a lot, pretty much everything that I've seen since. And again, I've not seen any seasons since. Oh no, that's a lie. I've seen Ninja Steel in full. Thanks, Bryce, you prick. But a lot of the cinematography in Legendary Battle, the bit where they're in the kind of like destroyed city and it's almost like they're all kind of like huddled up. It's very reminiscent of Countdown to Destruction, but it was shot really well. Like the lighting,
yeah,
and
I know what you mean there. Yeah,
it was good. It was, if the dialogue wasn't as rough as it was and stuff like that. And it's a shame because I feel like the cast were trying the best, and it's like there's a scene where like Troy's he's on the blower with Gosei, and he's like, the girls are here, I'm gonna go. and we'll catch up soon. And it was that kind of like almost casual back and forth between like the leader of the team and the mentor, and like in like a very intimate type setting. It just felt a bit more like, I don't know. It felt like I could see what they were going for, and it's a shame that they didn't get to achieve what they were going for with it, because the potential for that in terms of like the drama of it all was definitely there. It was. That was a pretty nice scene overall, I will say. And then it's followed by Troy and Orion bracing for impact. And I don't know about you, the faces are amazing. It's like one of those things where he clearly, when he shot it, they went, now act scared, and they're both like, ooh, and it's like that gif, you know, the guy opens the door and his face is like, ooh.
Oh yeah.
It's like they both do that, and it's so funny. That was great. That scene saved the episode for me personally.
One of the things I actually was more, I think I was disappointed by it with the Legendary Battle, but I don't see a lot of people comment similarly online, is that there was no individual morphs for the returning Rangers. Just we saw them put their helmet on.
Yep.
Whoop-de-doo. But you know what I mean? Normally, as a child, when I was watching the team ups and stuff, seeing even if they use the old existing stock footage, but seeing them, the returning Rangers morph again properly, was always part of it, part of the excitement. Not just seeing them
100%.
already morphed. Take the helmet off, go hello, and put the helmet back on. I just felt so. Yeah, I don't see that as a common point. That as a wish they'd done differently. I wish we'd seen them morph, but.
I think because a lot of people wish that they'd done the entire episode differently, maybe, so it gets lost in the shuffle. But it's you're 100% right. It's again.
I'm actually more offended by the
that...
lack of morph sequences in a different team up than I am with this one.
Yes, again, that's what I was about to. At least there was some. At least it felt like a little bit of effort, because they had the big heroic, you know, like first the legendary teams, but real this time. Oh, Jiminy Jillikers, Noah, these are amazing, that kind of thing. And it was, was more effort, and they're there like rattling them off. And one of the things that was like a decent enough touch, even though I feel like they did something really strange afterwards, was where they were like, "Where's Mighty Morphin and Zeo?"
It's really ham-fisted calling out the names.
Oh my God, Lost Galaxy, they were my favorites, Gia. You can say that again, Emma. I really love Lightspeed Rescue.
Never mind that, guys. There's Dino Thunder, and so they're kind of going through all this and just listing them off and stuff like that. But they did kind of go to the effort of not having any duplicates. So I feel like there was only one Tommy at that point. And then, and I think did they skip the space team because they showed Turbo? I feel like, because it would have just been Andro stood there by himself. And I think they had Turbo.
I can't remember.
Because when they showed Zeo, it was all the Zeo Rangers except for Red and Gold.
Yeah.
I'm sure they skipped past space. Or maybe Andros just stood there by himself, like just lonely as all balls. I don't know, but
They couldn't make it that day.
Yeah, actually, that's maybe we did. I forgot it. So don't at me, listeners. But then when they then do that, and when they walk down, they do the little slow motion walk that Mike was talking about before. TJ and Cassie are both in space. No pun intended. They're in the Space Ranger suits, but they'd just been Turbo a couple of seconds ago.
Isn't there the robot Rangers from Turbo? I think that was a common excuse thrown around.
That was another thing where it's like the fandom was just kind of making excuses for what was most definitely just an oversight.
Yeah.
It's funny because we did go to the trouble of kind of like doing it so there weren't any duplicates at that point, only to then just put them in different costumes when they got down there. But yeah, it's fine. It's very, in the grand scheme of things in this episode, it's quite minor.
Now, what wasn't minor was
as a whole,
Tommy, the Green Samurai Ranger.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean by the lazy post-production, where I just saw a Green Ranger and a gold shield and was like, oh, Jason, can you do some voiceover here, please?
I don't even think I picked up on that. Was it Cam?
It was literally...
Cam was it.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then, of course, the final episode where Tommy reaches to the sky and says, "We have to go now. Our planet needs us." And they all descend into the sky and explode into light and die.
Yeah.
That was...
And apparently now it's the Morphin Masters that did that.
Yeah, apparently, just a whole lot of those unexplained things that happened in the series, now the answer is the Green Morphin Master did it. It's the new A Wizard did it.
According to Dino Fury, the Green Morphin Master sent them all into the heavens.
Okay. I've seen bits of the Morphin Master thing on Twitter. I don't remember seeing... Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Simon says.
So, who wrote Dino Fury?
Becca and Alwyn.
You know who did.
So Becca Barnes and Alwyn Dale, also the writers of the 25th anniversary season episode of Power Rangers Dimensions in Danger.
And who directed it?
On my notes, it is. It's directed by Simon Bennett.
There we go.
All the pieces fall into place.
No.
Atrocious.
Oh no. This is going to be the part that gets us in trouble.
So my first notes for Dimensions in Danger are put your bike away, JJ. Jesus. That little put his bike away, none of this would have happened.
And don't forget, Simon gave us all permission to on it because it's atrocious.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
It'll grow on you though.
So let's
good.
start with the goods.
Where's that?
Good.
Yeah, what?
I liked the Tommy fight just from a fan servicey point of view.
That's the only good I've got on my notes.
And
I'm sorry.
a little tangent on that is that also the Master Morpher, I am a fan of it. Again, having also read Soul of the Dragon, the comic that also kind of explores the Master Morpher a little bit more, I do like the concept of it. But then, yeah, the good point of the Tommy fight is also one of my bad points, that the acting in general, especially in the Tommy fight, is atrocious.
If you ain't got a Master Morpher, you ain't or something like that. I can't remember the exact name.
The dialogue leak from JDF's pitched Green Ranger reboot.
I just love how it just got so much into this is the Tommy show territory. That when other Rangers are doing something, Tommy still somehow gets the credit for it. Do we all remember Wes and Gemma freeing the captured Rangers, and what's the first thing they do?
Thanks, Tommy.
Look, of course I remember it. I watched it yesterday. But yeah, no, that was funny. It was like Tommy wasn't even Tommy wasn't in the room. Like everybody literally everybody else rescued them and stuff. And then like Antonio just turns around and says, "Thanks, Tommy," as Tommy walks into the room. That was great.
As they all just assemble around Tommy, their Lord and Savior.
Yes.
I don't think Trent speaks.
No, there's a couple of them who don't say a word. Other than ninja, reveal. That's the only word they say.
And it's morphin' time.
Do they even say that? I genuinely can't remember if they say that. Oh,
Yep.
okay.
No.
All of them yell out, "It's morphin' time."
I know it. I think it was only the Ninja Steel Rangers. It might have just been Brody, but I feel like it was just the Ninja Steel team. We'll get to that particular point of the episode shortly.
I guess I have one positive. The choice in the Rangers they brought back. This is actually what initially got me so excited about it when I actually saw who was returning.
They did nothing.
It was a really they didn't do anything, but I liked who they chose to bring back. I'm trying to think of one positive here.
They brought back two of my childhood favorites, and then they had them do nothing.
What's a childhood favourite for you?
He sounded so happy and offended at the same time.
The plight of being a Power Rangers fan.
Well, who are your two favourites there? Yeah.
Well, Bryce is going to be mad about one of these. Trent and Antonio.
Fantastico!
Oh God, that's right. You're young. Antonio would be a childhood favorite of yours.
He's positively golden.
Well, it was one of my two favorites.
Bryce has just faded off into the void.
His microphone lost the rope to live.
Oh, wait, no, did I cut out?
He's back.
He slowly faded out. Yeah.
We've saved him.
I got sucked into the dimension of danger. Do I need to do I need to say that again?
No.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
We got the gist of it. The two favorites that I was looking forward to seeing the most were the ones who did the least.
Yeah.
Well, everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody
nobody
other
but
than
Tommy
Tommy.
did anything. It's like I don't even remember TJ being in the fight.
TJ has the greatest line in the episode. A lot of these episodes they rely on a little bit, like I said before, a little bit of like your own interpretation. Like you kind of need to fill in the blanks kind of thing. Like obviously the Master Morph is a major one of that, and I kind of see both sides. I can see why people would love it and why people would really not love it. I'm kind of in the middle. TJ's line of Draven, I was hoping I'd never hear that name again. And it's like okay. And it's like what
I thought
It's so bad because again with like some things it's like you fill in the blanks because you kind of think, oh yeah, I could see why they'd do that or why they'd know that. That
Yeah.
line is like suggest a far more interesting story than we got to see in this episode, and that's such a big no-no in these types of episodes. That's just flat out just god awful writing. That's so like each to their own and everything's subjective, and I'd never want to dismiss anyone's work on anything, but that is such like a just a red flag for what not to do in this type of episode. Because this is very much in the Forever Red vein of this is supposed to be a spectacle. This is supposed to be bringing back a lot of characters from a lot of things, and it's not really supposed to forward the story of Ninja Steel because who the cares about the story of Ninja Steel? Like it's just supposed to be this big spectacle, and it failed in every aspect in which Forever Red exceeded in.
Don't make me want to see the episode you're not showing me, which is the Space Rangers fighting Draven.
Right?
Show me that. I want to see
Yeah,
that.
that's exactly. And then there's
It may not even be the Space Rangers. It might have been TJ when he's returned, like he did in Legendary Battle. It might have been a little outing like that, where it was him and a random few other returning ones. That's what they painted it out to be.
It's such
again,
a
which
bad way of
sounds
doing
so much better than this.
So I just rewatched the whole fight just now, just because I need to know exactly
So that's
how
not
many
paying attention,
Rangers.
Bryce.
I was listening, but
Bryce, we
Right.
are talking.
And yet he still
last
never
time I
stopped
said, did I
talking.
talk too much? You're like, nah, I'm good. But now Bryce talks too much. But no, because it was it was it was
You talk so much, your microphone dies.
His microphone just gets
Your
fucked
microphone's
somehow.
I can't take it no more. I gotta get out of here.
it was bothering me, so I needed to see. And yeah, the only returning Rangers who had like a decent amount of fight footage was Coda, Kat, and Antonio. Like in that final battle, even Tommy, he literally only did like one move, and that was it. And TJ and Trent are just not seen at all.
So everything about that. So I guess we can move on to the final battle because there was other than Tommy versus Tom. In fact, no, because there was no major civilian fight. Was there
No.
in the entire thing?
No.
Nope.
But then there's your movie footage.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Which
out
again
of
was
blue.
part. So one of my big issues of it too was, and again maybe people prefer the idea of the current team being a bit more involved. And while I get that, I think for like I said before about Forever Red doing a good job of it because I felt like they had that ongoing, the first Red Ranger and the current Red Ranger kind of that being the story, and with Cole being the one to do the final hit. I kind of like that a lot more than the current team having this whole other mission to do just because they've got that footage there. And it's
Yeah. It felt so random.
it's wasting time from the actual thing that people are there to see, which is the Legendary Rangers, which is the the
Which
previous
isn't
cast.
even, and again, this is only a 1 episode special again, so it's not like you've got that much time with them anyway.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
It's all handled so bizarrely, and
But
I'd love to see the decision making process that went into the design of this particular episode because it's so bad on so many like technical and like every level I can think of.
my favorite bad point of the episode again comes from this last, like the big battle and that, when all the Rangers, both old and new, are at the ground floor while Draven's big and Tommy's flown off into Falcon. They decide to use they've got obviously so many different things they could call on, and they decide to use all their little bloody sidearms to just fire little laser pellets at him, basically. But the worst part of that is not even the fact they've just got him using their sidearms, is that Antonio, obviously he hasn't got a gun. And you see, if you have a look, he holds up his holster to his Barracuda blade, which then has lasers shoot out of it.
I did not notice that.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is ridiculous. And it's just like, right, if you've brought back Rangers who don't have guns, don't write in. They all shoot him with their guns. It's just absolutely. It feels lazy. It also just makes no sense to why they would go, okay, let's fire these at him. He's huge, and we're barely putting a dent in him. Surely,
It's
but
again
know.
because again one of my issues with that is having, and again I've got no. I know a lot of people did at the time, and all of a sudden they somehow magically don't. But I never really had too much issue with Tommy being the focus on a lot of his stuff, because whether people liked it or not, Tommy, I would say the three main ranges to everyone that's not in the fandom is number one Tommy, number two Jason, and number three Kimberly. Because I don't
mind Tommy being the focus, but I think the only one to do it like that without taking away from the rest of the Rangers was Forever Red.
You mean to not take away from them?
I guess not really take away, but just it felt like it was Tommy focused to the detriment of the other returning actors.
Which one, Forever Red or Dimensions in Danger?
Dimensions in Danger.
Okay, good, because I was about to say that. That the final, Tommy being the one to do basically the final hit and save the day is, again, it seems so detrimental to the current team. They have the current team do this whole little mission, which feels so inconsequential compared to the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
And then just have one of the legendary ones, and obviously it's Tommy, he's the man, I get it, but it's not a good way to really showcase your main team, and I feel like that's what something that Forever Red, by doing what it did a lot better.
Yeah, I understand that. I don't necessarily agree that they should have still done what they did in Forever Red, but I do feel like the Ninja Steel Rangers could have been completely absent from their own anniversary team up, and the episode would be pretty much no different.
Yeah. And again,
so neither. I feel like neither of them handled it well, even though they did the completely polar opposite of each other.
Okay,
in my opinion.
Any other thoughts? Seth?
I just think it's interesting that this episode has a dimension-hopping, ranger-slaying villain named Lord Dre in the same year.
Complete coincidence. They had no way of knowing. No way at all.
It's not similar at all, I'm sure.
Did we see? I feel like did one of us find recently on Twitter a thread where someone had said that it was a coincidence and they kind of knew that? But I feel like Lord
Someone
Drakon
did say that it was just a coincidence, that there was no connection. I don't believe them.
Was someone made to say that because it's so just eerily convenient?
I think it was.
Wasn't it Simon that said
it was
that?
The writers of the comic.
No, I feel
Kyle Higgins wasn't.
Was it Kyle Higgins himself?
It was Kyle Higgins himself.
I feel like it may have been Kyle Higgins. So I don't know.
No,
I just feel like it's Lord Drakon. Think Lord Drakon himself, the character, existed since 2016. Because he was introduced quite early in the comics before they ever got to the Shattered Grid storyline. That was his second appearance when he came back, and we did a lot of the stuff there. I don't know. I can buy some of it being a coincidence, but some of it's just a bit too.
It's all way too much of a coincidence for me.
And again, people say, "Oh, but they filmed it so long ago, and they planned it all and wrote it so long ago. Don't you know how long it takes to write television? They'd been writing and planning the comics for just as long." And there were some things that we did kind of in Unity, because wasn't Tommy's son being JJ kind of the same thing that it was in?
That's worked its way into Soul of the Dragon.
So it was in the show, which ended up in. It just seems this if you can do the kind of synergy with that, I don't see why we couldn't have done. And again, it would have made sense because the whole point of crossing dimensions, and there was even, if I remember correctly, in the comics, there was a Ninja Steel focused story. I think in one of the annuals or something, maybe. And it's
there was.
They went, why would you not then think, okay, we're doing this in the comics, we need to do this on a TV show, and it just felt like we could have synergized it a lot better. It would have, I don't know, because then would people reading the comics then go watch Ninja Steel? If the guy want to continue watching this series, this is wonderful. I don't know.
Well, hopefully they'll start to synergize things between the comics and the show in Once and Always.
Oh, segue.
Beautiful segue.
I will say that promo they did for that has gotten me the most excited for anything related to Power Rangers since the last movie, and that's saying a lot.
I would agree on that, actually, in terms of hype levels and just general excitement outside of, oh, this is coming, so this is a new series starting, oh, I'm interested in just seeing how they handle it. I'm
Right.
actually genuinely looking forward to seeing it. And it's something I would actively talk about to other people outside of the fandom to be like, did you know they're doing this? Because again, it calls back to the old show as much as, which is what the only thing people know about outside of the
It's the
fandom.
most hopeful I've been in a very long time.
I think the promo video was a very well made and very good at doing the job of stirring up those emotions and that nostalgia very well. Like the way it's very much a you need to feel like this about the things that you're seeing kind of thing. And I'm not going to say I can see through it because I'm really interested to see where it goes and what they do with it. And it's obviously there's a reason why they're focusing on David Yost and Walter Jones being back, because that's the big selling point. You know, there's a reason why this feels more like a big deal than just the the other 4 anniversary episodes you've just been through. This feels like it has potential to be a lot bigger. It should be a lot bigger. It's the 30th anniversary of a very popular kid show from the 90s that in a lot of ways changed a lot of entertainment in a lot of ways. I think it's easy to forget now that, like, for a very brief period of time, Power Rangers was bigger than Star Wars, bigger than Marvel, it was the biggest thing. Granted,
Very brief.
Star Wars was kind of not doing anything for a decade, and Marvel was in bankruptcy at that point. But it overtook Ninja Turtles as like the big, this is the franchise right now kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was such a phenomenon, and I think a lot of people forget that. Maybe a lot of people obviously these days weren't around for that. Seth, you little child, you. But Seth and his fellow youths. But yeah, it was such a big deal, and it feels like there's so much untapped potential still with that. And this is the closest thing that they could. My concern is that we've just gone through 2 episodes in particular that we didn't really like. One of them was directed by Charlie Haskell, and one of them was written by Becca Barnes and Alwyn Dale.
This is my concern with it, is that yes, that trailer was lovely and, like you said, stirred up all the right emotions that they wanted to get out of the audience, but there was actually no indication of the quality or the tone or the general direction of the actual piece.
Yes, that's right. And I did watch, I think we all watched actually, sorry, the Hasbro Pulse stream, which is I think was on the same day we did that trailer.
Yeah.
And there was an interview with Becca and Alwyn about it, and what they said in the interview sounded hopeful. Like that they'd had a lot of talks of Hasbro about the tone they wanted to go for, and it was like, paying respect to this. And on paper, that's good. That's promising. That's interesting to see where they go. In practice, we've seen how that particular team has wrote anniversary and tribute episodes before too. I know people talked about Grid Connection before. Yeah.
2 things are giving me the most hope. And one is Walter and David coming back, which they've never done before. Yep. They don't need to. They have never wanted to, and now they do.
Technically false. Walter came back, and we didn't mention
Forever Red.
Walter was one of the voices of the Machine Empire Remnant. You can't tell it's him. You especially can't tell it's Archie Cow as Vendrix.
The other thing that gives me hope is that this isn't just a random episode shoved into a current season. The first evidence of this dates back to 2020 when it was registered with the Union. This is a project Hasbro themselves have wanted to do since they bought the franchise. So I'm hoping they have more involvement in saying this is what we want to do. So Becca Alwyn, write this.
So in that interview, one of the things I thought that's good is that David Yost, it seemed like David Yost was quite heavily involved in the creative process. And again, we know that he'd wrote his own script from memory. I think, did he? That was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Which again, we don't know how good that would be, and I don't know if David Yost is necessarily renowned as a scriptwriter or anything like that. But
you've seen snippets of it.
Well, how was it good?
It existed. It wasn't the worst.
Oh, well, that's promising.
To be fair, I don't remember much about it. I remember just the whole Hulk and Skull scene, and I just remember thinking tonally that this is weird. It didn't feel like I was reading something Power Rangers, except for the fact that Bulk and Skull's names were in the script. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. I think one of the things that I worry about is going to be like the same again, and I think I said last week as well, I don't really follow the show and I haven't done for a long time now. And I feel like I'm more part of the audience that would be invested and interested in a Mighty Morphin reunion than I am in watching, oh, I want this to match the current season of Power Rangers kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that audience doesn't want to see just an episode of Power Rangers that could have been in 1993. It wants to see these characters grown up. It wants to see these characters acting more like they've grown up. It needs to be.
Yeah.
When I say mature, I don't mean like, the Adi Shankar film, which again, I've not got many bad things to say about, but it needs to just be more respectful of the fact that a lot of the audience is going to be older. The majority of the audience should be older. This shouldn't be made for kids. Full stop. Or period for you Americans.
We did see that shot of David like dirty and with a busted
Yes.
lip, and
Yes, yeah.
that alone is totally different than the current show.
Yeah. I think I said to you when I saw that, I specifically said to you that one image alone gives me more hope for this than anything else that we'd seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the image for me actually as well that made me hope that it's not going to be the same modern tone and the same kind of trying to do something, but there's no actual effort put behind it. But what I do worry about, and I do think it's something that we spoke about in all these anniversary specials, really, and I think John won't like it. I don't think continuity is going to play a big part in it, and I feel like they won't mention anything about how Billy is no longer on Aquitar and things like that. I reckon they'll just literally focus on what happened in Mighty Morphin, how that ended, and then be like, right, and now it's just carrying on from there with these characters.
We do see that shot of Zordon's broken tube, so there might be some continuity from the rest
Maybe
of the Zordon
Don't
era.
forget SPA.
Yeah, I was just
Oh
thinking
yeah.
that. I'm not looking forward to that.
I agree with Mike. I think it's probably not something that a lot of fans might agree with, but this feels like it is and should be just focusing a tribute to Mighty Morphin and not necessarily 30 years of the entire franchise. Because we can all agree that Dimensions in Danger, whether they tried the best or not on the episode, it's much harder to balance 25 seasons at that point of really just all over the place continuity and storylines and characters that, shouldn't really be able to exist with one another. With this, if it would just focus on Mighty Morphin and ignored the larger continuity, the SPA thing is the biggest red flag for me because everything about that is just objectively wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a massive SPD is one of my favorite seasons, and there's such an established lore within the show itself what SPD is and what it was and what it has been for, what should be running concurrently with the canon as it is. It makes zero sense.
I'm not thrilled about Robo Rita either. I think that has the potential to be very, very stupid.
Having Barbara Goodson back will help with that, I think.
Yes, definitely. There are a lot of things I'm concerned about, but I'm cautiously hopeful.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
For the most part, my feelings towards this anniversary are positive. It's the most positive I've felt about Power Rangers in general in just a really long time. I have high hopes for it, but I can also still see where this could go very, very wrong.
Yep, I agree, 100%. 100% agree. I think it's just the fact that not only have they got, but they announced and promoted the fact that they've got the voices for Rita and Alpha back. Like, when was the last time they went out of a way to just get a voice actor back compared to just sticking any old
When was
voice
the last
over
time
the
they went
top?
out of their way for anything? Let's be
Exactly, yeah.
honest.
So that in of itself is promising. Even though again it seems like they didn't go to all the trouble. I said before there's 3 particular rangers who are considered, I would say, by the larger casual audience to be the main 3, and they're not in it. And that's
No,
an issue
that's
for
true.
me.
2 of them literally can't be, and one of them apparently turned it down.
Well, the one that
Two
one
of them
the
turned it
ones
down,
that,
you know.
yeah, one of the ones that can't be actually could have, but because of Dimensions in Danger, I'm okay with Tommy not being here in this particular special.
The problem with that is now, and it's not anyone's fault, and I think people in the fandom will be respectful of it, but it's just knowing what we know now and the things that have happened now as well. It's just a
Yeah.
shame. It's just a
Right.
real shame that this is focusing on, and it's again had what happened not happened, then this focusing on Trini and being a contributor to Trang is great, and it should be. But obviously now there's going to be a major elephant in the room.
Yeah, especially since we
Yeah.
know that there is a Green Ranger that's gonna be there.
It's presumably a flashback, I guess, just to include him, but I don't know.
Yeah, I imagine it'll be a flashback more so only because with Rocky being the red, obviously he wasn't ever there when Tommy was green.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a some people said that those shots could be just shot for an opening sequence of when where they're on green hills and things like
yeah,
that.
that too. Because I
Which
think
is very true.
from memory, from I remember that picture. If they're all doing the overall roll call team pose, so
Yeah.
it could just be for promotional stuff in some ways too.
My mind immediately went to like a faceless, voiceless Green Ranger cameo, like kind of like what they did for or I guess not quite because they voiced him, but Shelby and Riley in Rig Connection, and then that other Dino Charge team up they had in Beast Morphers.
That's true, yeah.
Maybe, and
That would be terrible, and I fully believe they'll do it.
Someone also said, and I'm kind of hoping they wouldn't do that, is that Adam is that Green Ranger.
I've
No,
seen.
I don't think that's
Yeah,
No, they
I've seen a
won't
few
do
people
that.
say that makes no sense. That's the
No,
worst thing that they could do.
That's really, really stupid.
Yeah, I'm not feeling that
That's-
idea.
No, that's
Like
that's
I could kind of see it at first, but then just the more I sat with it, I'm just like, why would they do that? So then you brought Adam back, and he's gonna morph, and now you're bringing Aisha back, and what is she doing? Because there's a good
She's running the spa.
there's a good chance she's not that Yellow Ranger. I think we all know that the Yellow Ranger we saw is Trainee's daughter.
yes.
So it already feels weird having Adam and Aisha both here and they don't morph. I guess that depends on like how much of the story they're in.
Regardless of anything, it's nice to have any of the returning cast for it.
It is.
It's again with JDF not being there, you've almost got the movie cast, but not quite. So it's one of those shame that that's missing. But it's it is what it is. But I think would I trade like the Stone Canyon and like Cat for like Jason, Kimberly, and Tommy 100% in a heartbeat. I think for what the show is trying to be, I think it needs them, but I'm glad that they're there 100%. Yeah. I think it's if you can't get those three, then having them there is good.
Me personally, I don't mind Tommy not appearing in this. Then I guess like the more I think about it, this is the 30th anniversary, and this is Tommy. He probably should be here in some capacity.
This is a thing that's majorly appealing to casual audiences. They're going to wonder.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, maybe not as much now for obvious reasons.
I don't know. I think well, the issue with that is again before I think we're kind of winding down now too. But I think one of the issues I have is, and again, I kind of view myself more casual audience side of things anyway, is that it's a tribute to a ranger when there's another ranger that's far more recently died, and I think unfortunately, and it really is, it's no one's fault, people involved in making the special, that's going to be a cloud over it.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be, and I'm hoping it's not, and I'm hoping that we'll have. I'm hoping for 100% they're going to have like a dedication to Jason David Frank on it as well. They should. I just don't. It's going to feel strange.
It'll feel strange, but it will also be interesting to see just how Hasbro go about it going forward.
I am really curious about how they'll do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, especially after seeing the picture of messed up Billy, I have optimism for it, which is
cautiously optimistic.
Yes, I'm straight up excited for it. I'm not even gonna lie. After that preview we saw, like just seeing all of them, especially Zach and Billy together again, like I was just grinning the entire time I was watching that. Is that a trailer or behind? Like we'll call it behind the scenes.
So yeah, I think overall, it's something to look forward to, which is it's nice. It's nice to be able to say
that's a nice way to end the anniversary specials, is to wrap it all up. Something to look forward to.
Yep.
But yes, as we wrap up, firstly, thank you very much for listening. We genuinely do appreciate every single listener here. Second, a huge thank you to Joshua David Mitchell for our incredible theme music.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you, Josh.
Yes. I think you'll agree it's a truly more phenomenal piece, and it's very fitting for the brand. And third, we still want to hear from the rest of Ranger Nation, as we are only a tiny fraction of it. So do tell us on Twitter and on Instagram at Ranger Nation Pod. What is your favourite anniversary special and why? And if you're looking forward to Once and Always or not. And we will try to read some replies in the next or a future episode. But until then, in the wise words of the Hasbro era, stay tuned.
Bye.
Adios.
Ta-ta for now.